Hi, Colin Egglesfield here with Cobblestone Realty.
And I'm Drew Wishover, and I'm with Inspired Business Group.
And we're here to represent betterinformedhousing.org. You can check us out at betterhousing.org, and Drew and I are here to actually talk about what are best practices regarding hiring a contractor. Drew and I both rehab houses. I've been rehabbing for about 4 years now on the south side of Chicago. I've got 2 properties up on the north side. And Drew, how long have you been?
I've been rehabbing for about 7 years now, and I have currently 8 homes throughout the Chicagoland area, south suburbs as well, west burbs, and into the city too.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So for most of you out there, you probably don't necessarily know who we are. I actually am an actor. I've been in several TV shows and movies, and I've been living in California, living between California and New York for the past 20 years. And I started getting into real estate investing about 4 years ago. Heard that a lot of people were getting into it. You know, you watch the HGTV shows, Tarek and Christina.
Oh, good.
So, of course, it's obviously blown up over the past few years. And don't they always make it look a lot easier than
Sure
it
is. Sure is. There's a lot of people out there doing it, making a lot of money according to them, right?
So after watching some of these shows, I saw an ad on Facebook to come and actually do one of these education programs. So, you know, these education programs range anywhere from, you know, a few $100s all the way up to, I've seen them as far as $70,000 to actually learn how to rehab houses.
Wow.
So there's a lot of programs out there, and it's important to actually talk to the people who have actually gone through them before you spend all that money. I kind of went in middle of the road knowing that I wanted to dive in and make sure I was getting, you know, being mentored by people who had the experience. And when we first got started, you know, obviously one of the main factors in rehabbing a house is finding a good contractor.
Agreed.
So what we did was we started to talk to some of the real estate agents in the area that we wanted to rehab in. And when we started looking in Chicago, we realized that the South Side had a lot of really great opportunity. And we started talking to some real estate agents who were active in that area. And we got recommended to us a contractor who helped us with our first 2 projects, but on the second one, it just seemed to be taking a long time. And usually down in the south side, you can rehab a house in about three months' time. Yeah. We were going on month 4 and then month 5, and he just kept asking for more money. And finally, we had a second contractor go in there and take a look at what was going on because it just didn't seem to add up. And what turned out to be happening was he just wasn't hiring the subcontractors that knew what they were doing.
The job, right?
So we had to fire him and have this new contractor come in and redo a lot of the work that the first contractor did. Cost us a lot of money. And I've talked to a lot of real estate investors, and I think pretty much everyone out there has had that kind of nightmare experience. But you know, you learn a lot from it. However, we're here to tell you a little bit about what we've learned so you don't make the same mistakes.
I agree.
So Drew, when you first got into this, how did you find?
Very similar to what you did, Colin. Kind of did some exploration with those realtors, and simply said, I think the success that we had was done through contacting the realtors who have already sold homes that have been remodeled, and then finding those rehab teams, those construction companies, those general contractors who were part of that rebuild, and then interviewing them, and then going to see their product and going to see their property, and speaking with the realtors to see how long this process took. So I think it was just a little bit of our own due diligence. I'm not going to say that that was easy. I'm not going to say that didn't take several contractors that you had to meet, and really the truth is you really got to feel a connection with them, because there are a lot of them out there, and you can't be married to just one group or one set, because as soon as you do, you get comfortable, and they get comfortable, and that's when problems start to happen. So, but like you, it was all done through the process of meeting with the realtors and finding projects that were already done that were appealing, and they sold in a short period of time.
And when you found a project or a property that you were working on, did you have multiple contractors come in and give you a bid for what it was going to cost?
Yeah, so that's the piece that you don't see on HGTV. That's the piece that you don't see on all these shows, is they've always got the same person in there. And what I have done in my experiences have been, I will spend a couple days, grabbing a couple different teams and having them walk through there. And it's amazing the difference of bidding that you see. The price ranges are pretty substantial. And I'm not saying that it's always best to go with the lowest, because that doesn't necessarily equate to what you want them to do. So the best answer to that is comfortability, and really the promises that they make in holding them to them. And I've been thankful with the group that I currently have. They're great. From permits to end-to-end completion. The number that they give is the number that they do it for. If there are any extras, it's done by me, meaning I've made a change or I've made an alteration to that property. They don't come back and say, oh, by the way, we had to do this and it's now going to cost you X more dollars. So it's building that rapport and making them understand that they're going to be bid against on the next project as well, because then they're not going to become complacent and just assume that they've got every job. I don't know about you, but I think every contractor that I've worked with before the current gives us that feeling like, hey, I need this job to pay for the one that I did behind it. And it's a really scary task.
Yep, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
And for most people out there, they're not necessarily rehabbing houses, but they may just want to be doing some upkeep on their house. So let's say someone needs a new roof, or they're looking to redo their kitchen. Pretty much the same standard goes with regards to having, you need to have multiple bids with several different contractors. And you may ask, where could I even start to begin? A resource that there's a good place to start is homeadvisor.com. And what you can go there is type in what kind of project you're working on or wanting to do, and your location, and then contractors will start to contact you.
Definitely.
And then what you want to do is just ask them. They'll ask you a few questions, and then they'll want to come look at the project and look at your house and see whatever scope of work you're looking at. So that's a good place. We mentioned before also talking to real estate agents. And then once you do get a contractor in there, the problem that we've run into is that you want to, like you said, you don't always want to go for the lowest bid, because what we've done is we've hired that contractor with the lowest bid, and then 3 months later, they're saying, well, it's going to cost another $20,000 for this. So how do you keep a contractor married to what he's saying his scope is going to be?
So that is, I often feel what you just said is truthful. They bid it low because they know that they're going to mark up other things through the process. So I ask all the questions that are pertinent to the scope of work that I'm looking to be done. What does this include? Is this from soup to nuts, beginning to end? What do you do about extras? Does this include permits? Are you going to handle the inspections? Are you going to clean the house when it's done? Or do I have to pay for that separately? Like, I mean, you can just go through a laundry list of things and ask these questions. So going back to where another place to find some of these contractors is too, is some of the big box stores. They have contractors coming there buying materials all the time. Their trucks are parked outside. You've got their phone numbers there. You can literally go to the desk at the big box stores and say, hey, I'm looking for a contractor to do my tile in my bathroom or to remodel my kitchen. And they have a list of preferred working relationships, and those are good too, because if they're working with them, they're a little bit more credible. And getting things in writing today is at the utmost of importance for all these things, because you see all the TV shows, the news programs where they're going after the contractors after the fact. Folks, that's real. That's legit. I mean, that really happens out there. And as we sit here in front of you here today, and we are doing rehabs and remodeling, it's not as easy as everybody makes it out to be. There are things that you don't see behind the scenes. There are things that happen that you don't take into consideration. So you want to try to eliminate all these opportunities as much as you can. And I think what we're trying to tell you folks today is things like what to look out for and how to protect yourself and where to go. The resources, the who, what, where, when, and why. And when a contractor tells you that they're going to do this project and it's going to cost $20,000, be sure that you know what your $20,000 is going for. And if there's anything that alters that $20,000, have it in writing so you have the utmost of protection and you can pursue them after that. Because if without it being in writing, If they said, if, you know, well, he said he was going to do this, that's great. People say they're going to do a lot of things and they never follow through. So,
right. Yeah, I've heard plenty of nightmare stories where other investors or just consumers who have hired people to do a job. I knew a police officer in California who had hired a company to come in and put a pool in his backyard. And they quoted him $20,000 to do this. So the guy, my police officer friend, gave him $10,000 up front. The guy dug the hole in the backyard and then never showed up. And there's another time where this homeowner had hired a roofing company to come, and on the first day they were all up, and they had like, you know, 4 guys up on the roof, and they heard all the hammering, and they stripped off all the shingles and the underlayment, and the job, I think it was like an $18,000 job, and they paid him half of it up front. And then they did all, you know, they ripped off all the shingles and then never came back for day 2.
It's so true.
So in order to protect yourself from that, the best practices that, you know, we've come to learn is that as you're the person who's paying the contractor, so you're the one that's in charge of the project. So what you want to do is you want to get a scope of work from a contractor and make him list out exactly what materials he's planning on using for the project, and you buy the materials. You have the materials delivered to wherever it is that you're having the project done. That means you own the materials, and then he'll give you a scope of work of what it's going to cost for the labor. And primarily what we like to do is we like to see work done, and then we pay you for that week's worth of work. Sometimes they do want to have a little bit of money up front, so you want to give them maybe $1,000, $1,500 to start the project. That way, if anything goes wrong, you're only out of pocket $1,500. But ideally, you want to own the materials, have the contractor come in, start to do the work, and then you pay them on a weekly basis until the project is done. And then what you also want to do is make sure that you have the contractor sign a lien waiver once the project is done. And that way there's no recourse for him to come back and put a lien on your house for work that he claims that, let's say, you know, he's saying that you owe him an additional $5,000 or $10,000. You want to make sure that you get the lien waiver signed at the end of the project. Have you ever had any problems with liens?
Thankfully, no. But speaking to Colin's point there, a mechanic's lien is nothing more than that. It is literally one of the contractors reporting that they were not paid for work done in your house. So what they do is you can formalize a lien, record it against your property, and now your property is encumbered. It's no longer free and clear, with the exception of your own mortgage. So this really muddies up the title, and this is a topic for another day, but there are protections in place for you in doing these processes. What Colin spoke of earlier, the form that we typically use is the contractor statement that he was specifying and talking about was you will line item everything out on that as to plumbing, what it is, carpentry, what it is. And then when you go to pay these things, they have to come in with a waiver that lets us know that it's been done, and then the title company, typically, or the bank, wherever your funds are, would authorize disbursement to the contractor. Not until that waiver's filled out completely and somebody has inspected the work to be done on the property. So it really does help the whole process in keeping it on time, keeping it on a schedule, keeping the monies from getting out of hand. If you disperse too much money and you get way out in front, you're not going to get it back. They're not going to refund it. I'll tell you right now. The truth of this is you want to keep that time frame going. You want to keep them honest. You want to keep them motivated. And the only way to do that is through the methodical process that these forms and processes allow you, meaning the contractor statement, the lien waivers, and then at the end of the project, there is a final waiver which allows them to say, yep, everything I told you I was going to do, I did. I completed to its entirety. You've paid me the full amount of money. Now they're releasing their right to file a lien against your house now. So you're free, and that protects you all the way through. A title company is a place that you're going to go to for that help. Even if you go to a bank, they're going to go to a title company because it regards the title of your house. This is what we're talking about, that it would affect the title of your home. So liens are real, and liens in this area are common. So these points that we're talking about are something that are very interesting, and I think that people can call in if you guys had any questions by using the phone number on the bottom of the screen, Better Informed Housing, the 312-738-1060. So if you guys have any questions about this, we're certainly here to take any of those calls as we continue to move through this ever so long process, but it's fun. I mean, it's truly fun. We both wouldn't be doing it if we didn't love it, but there are things that happen, and unfortunately, in a 25-minute television show, you don't get to see those. The crises that you see after a commercial break, they're resolved. It's amazing.
Yeah,
2-minute commercial break is resolved.
So that's interesting you say that about using a title company to control the payment to the contractor, because that's something that I just haven't done. I'm absolutely going to start looking into that. Because you own a title company.
Indeed.
What are the charges associated with doing that? Because if someone is just having their cabinets redone in their kitchen and it may only be a $5,000 project, is it worth it to hire a title company for that kind of a project?
I guess it depends on your comfortability. Typically what we do as a title company is the bigger projects, new construction, some of the bigger remodels, rehabs, like all of my rehabs, my team puts it through the title company because I want that protection. And what we're doing is we're insuring each payout, meaning we hold your money, you deposit that money in escrow with the title company, so that $50,000 rehab project gets deposited in our title company, so we hold that money. And for a fee, like $100 and $150 a draw, we will pay out all of your contractors without you even thinking about it. You've deposited the money, and typically what will happen is, depending again on the size of the project, the monies can be deposited by the investor or the bank in a methodically draw way too, where if you're going to say, I'm going to pay 5 times, I'll put $10,000 in to equal that $50,000. This way, it's okay, you can kind of portion the money in your own way. But we'll still facilitate the whole process. We'll check the waivers and make sure they're filled out correctly, that it matches the contractor statement, meaning the amount they say they're supposed to get paid is the amount that is on the contractor statement for the work they've done thus far, knowing that maybe they've got some trim carpentry to do or they're waiting on the cabinets, but they've done the rough stuff. So yeah, we can pay them out on that. It's done. It's done as an owner or as an investor, and then the title company takes the responsibility that, yep, we did these things, we paid them out, so now if there's any kind of an issue, the title company is protecting you, the investor or the homeowner, against any kind of liens being made. So
in addition to the draw fee of $100 to $150, is there a charge just to even set up the escrow?
Yes, so there's an escrow fee, which again, it depends on the size of the project, because as title companies go, they have to, if they're holding somebody else's money, that's really the definition of escrow, if they're holding somebody else's money, they have to charge a fee for that. We can't hold somebody else's money and not charge for that. I know that sounds odd, but that's just how the business works.
What is that fee?
So typically it could be $500. Typically it can be $250. Again, it is contingent upon the size of the project and your relationships with title companies, because I have a lot of investor clients and we can work deals out with them based on their businesses and things. But we love to assist people because, again, it's a positive thing. It's why we do this is to really benefit the consumer, because it's really beneficial for them to do this.
And I can't tell you, for someone who's only been doing this for 4 years, the peace of mind that $500 would give me, knowing that I was protected and that my contractor was incentivized to do the job the way that he said he was going to be doing it. I promise you, it's worth the $500 to call a title company to set it up doing it that way, knowing what I know now. It's funny what these education programs don't teach you. It's a lot of flash, and they get up on stage and they say, you can do it, and you can flip the house, and these are the basic premises on what the philosophy and the strategy is. But there's those little minutia points like that they don't necessarily tell you about, that you have to kind of learned the hard way.
Yeah, the little behind the scenes things that you don't get because they truly don't have the time to really discuss it and elaborate on it. But that's where these type shows and the realities of true people doing it on a daily basis live it. And you know, the $500 well spent. And then it's $100 or $150 per draw. So really, all in, it's $1,000, $1,500, whatever the case is. In the big scope of what you're spending, that's a very, very safe protection for what you're doing, and it takes the pressure off. I mean, think about it, Colin. How much more beneficial would you be doing things that you're supposed to be doing versus worrying about how I got to pay out these contractors or I got to put the monies together to do this? It's off your plate already. It's one less thing you have to think about. So again, working smart versus working hard.
Right. And I used to work for a home improvement company when I was living in Los Angeles, where we would go to people's houses and we would bid out whether it was someone wanted to have their kitchen redone, so new cabinetry, countertops, new roof, all that stuff.
Sure.
And one of the statistics that I learned was that there's over 600,000 contractors in the United States alone. And what I also learned was that within 1 year, 50% of those contractors that actually set up shop go out of business. And I think the statistic was like 85% of contractors that set up shop within 5 years, they're out of business. And what happens is a lot of these guys, most contractors are one-man operations. Yeah. So it's Chuck in a truck, and he's got his logo slapped up on his pickup truck. And what happens is if they get behind if you've paid them to do a project and they're starting to run low on money, then they go take another project before finishing your project, and before you know it, they're behind. And so what they'll do is they'll declare bankruptcy, and then they'll just set up shop as a new entity, and you have no recourse to go after them. So true. So what you want to do is make sure that whenever you're interviewing a contractor, that he shows you his contractor's license, and also that he shows that he's got workman's comp, because the last thing you want as well is to have anyone walking onto your property. Yes. And a lot of these guys that will come in and bid the project lower than another contractor, the reason why it's lower is because maybe they're not applying for the proper permits, and that they don't have the workman's comp. And you got to make sure too that all the subcontractors that work for the contractor, they have to have a license as well, because if you have anyone up on your roof, let's say you hire the contractor and he's licensed, but then he's got 3 subs up on the roof that are not contracted and they don't have their workman's comp insurance. If one of them falls off the roof, you as the homeowner are liable. And a lot of people don't realize that. So that's another thing you have to be
licensed,
careful.
bonding, and insured are the key words for, you see them on the side of their vehicles. But that's great, but make sure they show it to you. And as Colin said, those horror stories are out there that, that part-time employee that they've got working with them slips and falls off your roof, and now you have to report that to your homeowner's insurance, and they're in the hospital, and it's your liability now, and it didn't have to be. So along with gathering up that's part of the due diligence on the front side of gathering up their estimate and their bid, asking the question of, okay, I understand now what all this entails. Now, tell me about you. Show me some of the projects that you've done. Call some of the people that they've worked for. Nobody will give you a bad referral list. Why would they, right? So, go out on your own and read some of everybody's online right now. Everybody's posting goods and bads. So give yourself that opportunity to take and spend that time, because this is your home. And the goal and safety of your home is very important, and protecting that is what you want to do. And we as builders, contractors, investors, we want to keep that same feeling for you throughout our project and our process. We don't want you to feel uncomfortable, and if we're doing these projects, our name is on them doing them. So we don't want to certainly take any risks, because I don't want the next job that I do to be the last job that I do.
Exactly.
And that's truthfully how we feel.
Exactly. So thank you for joining us tonight. If you want to find out anything more about contracting and better about low-income housing and how you can get involved as well, you can go to our website, betterinformed.org. I'm Colin Egglesfield with Cobblestone Realty.
I'm Drew Wishover with Inspired Business Group today.
And thank you for watching.